So today we are here to talk about the new Good Old Games refund policy, what I think about it, what developers think about it, what was the response on Reddit like from the users that were commenting on the article about developers disliking it, and essentially everything about it. So, to begin with, starting now, you can get a full refund up to 30 days after purchasing a product, even if you downloaded, launched, and played it. That's it. You are not tied to hours played on GOG anymore. You're not tied to 14 days. You have 30 days. You can refund the product after any hours played. However, I imagine they are gonna be monitoring for abuse, so if you refund like 5 games in a month, you'll probably be like barred from buying and refunding more things. I assume that that's how it's gonna work. Now, I personally saw a lot of pushback from this from indie game developers on Facebook. Kind of don't want to publicize their names. Plus, I kind of lost the thread. I'm so sorry. So, I'm just gonna give you the response to an article on Eurogamer.net by the developers. There were some developers that were tweeting angry tweets about this. Eurogamer made an article out of it. Well, I don't know about this one. 30 days is a lot more than I feel is necessary to evaluate the game, and a lot more than almost all games take to complete if you play them for an hour daily. Young me would definitely abuse the hell out of this. Something I will say about the GOG refund policy change, user being allowed to refund anything they buy up to 30 days later, is that GOG did not tell devs before they did it, which is pretty shitty regardless of whether you think it is a good idea or not. Developers, at least most of us, are never consulted when Steam or GOG make fundamental changes to their services. They sell our games, they make money from our games. Why do we not get a say in how our games are sold? Now, I do believe that the developers should be told about changes upcoming to the platform. But at the same time, that's a bit the same as on every single platform possible. Twitch tells me that a change is incoming. YouTube tells me that a change is incoming. I do not actually have the option to leave feedback and say I do not want this change. At the same time, I'm also very concerned that on such subjects, developers normally take a stance of us versus the gamers. And the gamers end up once again taking stance of us versus the developers kind of involuntarily, because it seems that the platforms get judged on whether they're developer friendly or gamer friendly, and it's never like both. You're one on the other, and it doesn't matter which one you are, the other side gets angry, and I kind of hate that dynamic quite a bit right now, because look at Epic Game Store. It was trying to sell itself as, ooh, we're so friendly to the developer by giving them a larger cut and giving them money up front, but at the same time, from a consumer point of view, they're very not friendly because they're lacking a lot of features. The support's kind of crap, a whole bunch of people got their accounts hacked, and so on and so forth. It's just not consumer friendly. At the same time, GOG is now very, very consumer friendly when it comes to refunds, but developers do not like it. There's Steam. Normally, it's Steam versus Epic Game Store, so this is a bit of a weird dynamic, but we're not talking about Steam right now, so let's just put it down into a pile of things we don't talk about right now. But yes, I do not like that dynamic whatsoever, because I don't think that's a healthy relationship. It should never be you versus your customers or your customers versus you. That's not a great day of doing business. And then there is this response on Reddit. The developers complaining about GOG's new policy are incredibly disingenuous. I believe that this deserves to be highlighted separately from the thread about the article. Developers who are cited in Eurogamer's article publicly criticizing the new refund policy are egregious examples of treating customers like shit on the GOG platform, and it's a damn shame they're getting highlighted as victims. Mike Rose never released the DLCs for Not Tonight on GOG, leaving those who had bought it on GOG with an incomplete game. Rami Ismail abandoned the GOG version, leaving the release day version unpatched for 4 years, and only continued to update the DRM-free version of Nuclear Throne after Epic threw money at him to have it as one of the EGS freebies. And he leaves a nice list of games. There's about 546 different games that have issues on the GOG client that are not present on other clients, therefore implying that GOG kind of needs this kind of refund policy because people just throw their games there and they abandon them. And sometimes some games are like better on the GOG version because it's easier to patch by hand, such as like really, really old games. I've heard that about Gothic, for example, that it's easier to patch the GOG version. Sometimes, though, you're left without all of your game that you should have gotten, that you would have gotten on other platforms, such as missing soundtrack, like missing Mac and Linux build, and so on and so forth. Like, the GOG version seems to oftentimes be left incomplete. Oftentimes is probably a wrong word for it. I mean, it's only 546 issues with different games, therefore it's not like all the games on GOG doing this, obviously, but there are games on GOG that are just plainly incomplete, and that's not right, especially if the person bought it and then they see that the game is better on a different platform. That really shouldn't happen. That's not very fair, and you can understand how that refund policy would work. That being said, from my opinion, that doesn't fix the issues that I have with refund policies on a lot of major retailers. My issue with the refund policy is not just the upfront time that you spend with the game, but what happens after the game patches, because a lot of these games are now live services. And I had a lot of games that would work day 1, but wouldn't work, let's say, day 30 and from there on end. A horrible example, but it's still an example, is The Sims 4. It just, after City Living, Simulation Lag practically broke that game for me, and I can't fix it for myself. And under no law am I protected as a customer, because nobody took into account that somebody's gonna continuously change that game. In my opinion, that should be something that is taken into account, that after you release a game update, you have X amount of time to fix problems, and if users are having really bad technical difficulties after that X amount of time, after an update, they can get a full refund and get rid of that game from their library. In my opinion, that should be a thing in the New World Order. I don't think that anyone's needing really 30 days to test drive the game the first time around. 14 days is more than enough. I would say that Steam's 2-hour limit is fairly limiting, though. So the fact that GOG doesn't have that would be a plus for me, because I would have refunded Jurassic Park Evolution. Took me 5 hours to figure out that that game just doesn't get better. I probably should have stopped earlier, but because Steam refunds, it was just like, nope, you cannot refund. I didn't even get halfway through the game, by the way. It just took me several maps to figure out that it's not just a tutorial map that works like that, and to see its most egregious issues. And I suppose this kind of policy also works if a game breaks on you like 70, 80, 90% through. If you get through 3 out of 4 towns in a game, for example, and the game is like an RPG and it works wonderfully and you like it and you're enjoying it, and at the 3rd town, it's just like a brick wall that the developer put in there, or that something broke and you just cannot progress further past it, it would be very understandable if you wanted to claim a refund. You would be like, this game is broken, I can't finish it, that upsets me. That sort of thing. Of course, I would think that everybody should actually put in a reason why they're requesting a refund with the said refund. I mean, some people would refund just because, oh, I finished it, but at the same time, I believe that GOG would eventually stop these accounts from seeking refunds, because they wouldn't do that just to one game, they would do it several in a row, and you can see a pattern, and Steam does the same thing. If they recognize a pattern of refunds, they're just not gonna grant it to you anymore. So that's something to take into account. So that would kind of sum up my thoughts on this. I do believe the developers should be informed of the changes coming, but on the other hand, practically no platform does. Twitch doesn't really allow you to have a say. YouTube doesn't allow you to have a say. Doesn't matter that you're a creator on those platforms and that you use these platforms, you just do not have a word about what's happening in it. Amazon does not give their creators a word either about what's gonna happen on Amazon and how it's gonna affect the sellers. So you just have to kind of live with the changes. It's kind of shitty, but it is as it is. That being said, I don't think that you do need 30 days up front to try a game out. The no-hour limit is nice, and I think 14 days would have been fairly sufficient, but at the same time, I believe that after updates, there should be some laws allow opening a refund window for you again if your game broke beyond repair, because that's what pisses me off about live service games. And my third statement was that I do not like how this is being treated as us versus them again, like developers versus customers. I don't believe that such a dynamic should ever exist in the industry, and it's very sad when it does. And I can't really like fault either side really, but you don't want that dynamic with your customers. Not a good dynamic to have. Customers ain't gonna buy your stuff anymore. You really shouldn't do this. So yes, I resummed up my points in the last 2 minutes. Thank you for watching. Please feel free to express your opinion on this. What do you think about the new GoG policy? Do you think that it's excessive? What do you think about the developers' thoughts on it? Yeah, just feel free to leave a comment. And if you like my content, somewhere around here should be like a subscription button. So yeah, like click it because it brings happiness to my soul. And I do these kind of talky videos every single day together with a single Let's Play video, but you can probably determine that yourself. So thank you for watching, and I hope I'm gonna see you next time.